Mark set a sheet of contract paper and a jar of special ink on the table. Benno dipped his pen in the blue ink and began writing. Lutz holds the right to sell goods created by the Myne Workshop. In order to establish a representative, one must first gain the approval of Myne, Lutz, and Benno, then submit an application to the Merchants Guild. What's this line for? I pointed at the contract. Insurance. If a contract involves just kids, some people try to get around it through violence or kidnapping. I'm getting myself and the guild involved to prevent that. When making contracts like these, involve third parties you can count on. Remember that. We signed our names. Lutz, please. I shut my eyes and held out my thumb. Once he cut it, I pressed blood against my signature. The blue ink sucked up the blood and turned black. When everyone had stamped, the ink shone brightly, burned through the paper, and the contract vanished. We also wrote an identical copy on normal parchment, meaningless to nobles, but important for guild records. This ensures you can keep selling products and see Lutz even if you get dragged to the noble's quarter. But remember, this contract only works on people who care about your products. A noble who only wants your mana won't care, and magic contracts only work in the town they're signed in. Benno rushed us to the Merchants Guild to register the Myne Workshop and establish me as forewoman. On the way, he continued lecturing. Think about the best possible result for you. Figure out what you need from the temple, what you can offer, and what they want. I thought, permission for the bookroom, not being a gray shrine maiden, keeping my workshop. I could offer mana and money. They wanted mana and money. Maybe these negotiations could work. The High Bishop said I couldn't belong to other organizations. Won't registering as forewoman interfere? Benno stopped walking and turned to look at me with the expression of a man who has just been informed that his house is on fire. Let me understand this correctly. You walked into the most powerful religious institution in this city, demanded to read their books, offered them a fortune in donations, revealed you have abnormal mana, and then agreed to a condition, verbally, with no contract, with a man who has every incentive to lock you in a room forever, that you wouldn't join other organizations? He pinched the bridge of his nose. And your concern right now is whether registering as forewoman might be rude. When you say it like that, I will say it exactly like that because that is exactly what happened. But the bookroom. He repeated it flatly, as though the words had lost all meaning. You have mana worth more than this entire street combined, and you negotiated it away for a room full of paper. I need a moment. Lutz was trying very hard not to laugh. Benno gave me a sharp chop. Don't count on others to do things for you. Secure your own position yourself. You're right. I never expected the chalice could extend my life. I just wanted books, and since I was dying in 6 months anyway, I didn't care about anything else. But now I'm motivated. Motivated. He looked at the sky. She's motivated. Praise be to the gods. Lutz came racing down the 7th-floor staircase, breathing hard. I looked up at it with awe. If I tried running that, I'd collapse before the top. Benno lifted me up and kept lecturing as we walked. If temple members can't join guilds, you'll be the only one capable of doing trade. Flash money and force them to let you keep your workshop. Mention wanting to give orphans work and improve their situation. They'll understand everything runs on money. Also, exaggerate your weakness to get servants who'll do physical labor for you. Take truths and stretch them. Once they see orphans working hard in workshops, other workshops might take orphans too. I nodded eagerly at everything, and Benno sighed. Don't just nod. Prioritize yourself over orphans until you've established your position. Consider the orphans as tools, appear as their savior. More people care about you getting hurt than those orphans. At the guild, Frida spotted me browsing the bookshelf in the waiting area. She'd been worried I'd collapse during the baptism. I laughed. That's exactly what happened. Our new guild cards were ready. Forewoman cards carrying over everything from the temporary ones, but requiring a new blood seal. Simple but painful. 5 small silvers for the fee. Freda overheard the clerk say Myne Workshop, and her merchant eyes glinted. Were you not becoming a Gilberta Company apprentice? Too weak for a stable job. Then sell your products to the Uthmar Company as well? Sorry, Lutz sells what I make to Benno's store. Lutz again. She pursed her lips, then pivoted. She wanted me to taste test Lace's pound cake experiments. I suggested bringing multiple people for varied opinions. Kids, adults, boys, girls. Frida's eyes lit up. A perfect idea. She raced upstairs to plan the event with the guildmaster, ultimately inviting both Lutz and Thule. See, Frida and Myne are just alike, Lutz muttered. Benno cackled. Walking home as the summer sun set, Lutz squeezed my hand. You're really joining the temple? If Benno's right, they won't let me escape. Think you can negotiate with them? I've never negotiated with nobles, but the Grail can keep my devouring in check, and I want the book room. I'll work as hard as I can. For a while, we walked in silence. Lutz looked up, pretending interest in a passing carriage, then swallowed whatever he wanted to say. If you want to say something, don't hold back. He stopped, opened his mouth, closed it. It's lame, I don't want to say it. Our silence continued. The bustle of home life echoed from surrounding windows, but between us the air stayed heavy. The sun finished setting, shadows fused into thick darkness. You said we'd make paper and start selling real books together. Myne, you liar. His murmur nearly drowned under a passing carriage, but I heard it. Sorry, Lutz. I know I'm too weak to do anything about this. I want to help you stay safe there, but I hate this. You said we'd start a bookstore together. I did, but I want to make books so I can read them. I won't stop just because I'm joining the temple. My dream won't come true unless I spread books across the world. Lutz shrugged with a forced, tearful smile. Your dream of being surrounded by books? Let's both work hard to make our dreams come true. Lutz really did come close to tears. I want to help you, but I've come this far because I was with you. I wanted to work hard in Benno's store with you. I want to keep doing things with you. He hugged me and buried his face in my shoulder, holding back quiet sobs. It'll be okay. We can still do things together. I don't want to sell books you made with someone else. I want to sell books we made together. Tears dripped from my own eyes. I hugged him back and patted his back gently. Nothing will be different. You'll make the things I think up. When I have new ideas, I'll talk to you first, before Benno, before anyone. Even though I can't do anything? If you can't do anything, what can I do? Who else will help me make the weird things I come up with? I need you. Lutz wiped his tears, embarrassed, and stood straight. The only thing I can see happening is people trying to help you, failing, and calling me over. I shrugged, and he finally laughed. He squeezed my hand and walked forward, bright smile contrasting the darkness. Don't sweat it. I'll make anything you think up, no matter what. At home, Dad erupted. You're late? How much will you have to worry us? I apologized, ate dinner, then tried to lighten the mood. Mom, Corinna wants to see my baptism dress and hairpin. Mom dropped her spoon. That outfit isn't worth showing to Corinna. Okay, I'll turn her down. You can't turn her down. That would be rude. Mom fell into a complete panic, happy to be recognized but unable to handle someone who was practically her hero. Thule poked me. Can I go too this time? I promised to mention that Thule made the flowers on my hairpin. Thule's face lit up, but Mom hadn't agreed yet, waving her hands. I never said I didn't want to go. We all laughed, and Mom gave a defeated smile. Then the weight fell. I delivered the real news. The devouring was manna. The temple needed it, and the letter of invitation. Dad and Mom slumped when I mentioned the chalice shining. Benno said there's probably no chance of escaping the temple and nobles. How is that different from a noble enslaving you? I'm not giving you to the temple, Dad said. I told them about the political shift. Fewer nobles, the temple desperate for manna. Dad confirmed it from what he'd heard at the gate. Benno said I'm lucky. If I negotiate properly, they might treat me like a noble. Dad's eyes shone. Flail to survive, huh? Your situation's not too bad. We planned our strategy. Emphasize my mana value and weakness so they treat me as blue-robed. Use money as leverage for the workshop. Get access to the book room. Secure the right to commute from home. I became a soldier to protect my family. I'll make sure you win. The day came. My parents wore their best clothes. I wore the Gilberta Company outfit. At the door, I clenched my fist and bent my knees, the soldier's battle prayer pose. Dad laughed, made the same pose, and tapped his fist against mine. You can count on me. The guards at the temple gate recognized me and let us through without question. Inside, the corridors felt different than on baptism day. Emptier, quieter, stripped of the warmth that crowds generate just by existing. Our footsteps echoed against white stone. The walls here were unadorned, just smooth, pale blocks rising to vaulted ceilings, and the light that fell through the high, narrow windows came in cold, flat columns that barely reached the floor. There were no tapestries, no rugs, no smell of cooking or candle smoke to soften the air. Just the cool mineral smell of stone that never fully warmed, and the distant echo of our own movement folding back at us from somewhere ahead. I was burning up inside. The devouring heat had been climbing since breakfast. Nerves, anticipation, the specific dread of walking into a negotiation where the other side had more power than you and knew it. Every time my body temperature spiked, the corridor's cold pressed back against my skin, which helped a little. But the contrast was disorienting. Heat from inside, cold from outside, and somewhere between them, the version of me that had to hold everything together and speak clearly when spoken to. Dad's hand rested briefly on my shoulder. I straightened. The high bishop's room. He and the high priest waited at the table, 4 gray priests behind them. The high bishop greeted me like a friendly grandpa, then saw my parents and his expression turned to condescending disdain. "May I ask what their professions are?" "My dad is a soldier. My mom works at a dye workshop," he snorted. "No greetings. We weren't offered seats. It seems you've refused Myne's wish to become an apprentice shrine maiden. I don't want my daughter treated like an orphan." Dad's voice threw sparks. "She has the devouring. She won't survive without magic tools. We will express our benevolence and take her in. An order, not a discussion." The high priest watched silently, seeking the easy route, as he later admitted. "I refuse. Myne won't survive as a servant." Dad stood firm. Mom added, "She collapses twice during a baptism and ends up bedridden for days." "What rude parents! Be quiet and hand over your daughter." The high bishop exploded, face red. "Priests, capture these parents and lock Myne up." Dad stepped forward. The high bishop smirked. "Lay a hand on a priest and I'll have you executed. I've been ready for that since I swore to protect Myne." Dad drove a fist into the first priest's stomach, kneed his jaw, backhanded the second, kicked him away. 4 down. Orphan servants had no chance against a trained soldier. The high bishop opened the door. More than 10 priests rushed in. Something snapped inside me. My body boiled, but my head turned ice cold and crystal clear. "Don't you dare touch my mom and dad." Everyone froze. The high bishop's smugness shattered into horror. The high priest's calm cracked. "Myne, your mana is leaking. Control your emotions," the high priest yelled. "How? He summoned us to talk, ordered us around, got violent, and threatened execution. Tell me how." I looked at the high bishop. He flinched, scrambling backward. "Stay away." The high priest's voice turned panicked. "Stop, his heart won't last. He can just die then. If you're willing to kill other people, you should be prepared to be killed yourself." 4 steps. The high bishop's eyes rolled back and he passed out, frothing. The high priest dropped to his knees in front of me, blocking my line of sight. Blood dripped from his mouth. "You must not kill him. If you kill the high bishop, your family will be stained with murdering a noble." That snapped me back. I blinked. He sighed in relief. "Let us talk, just as you wished for." I took deep breaths and pushed the mana back inside me, harder than expected. The moment I sealed it, my body collapsed like a marionette with cut strings. The high priest caught me and passed me to my parents. "I'm fine. My body can't keep up with the temperature changes. This happens all the time." The high priest gave orders to the gray priests. "Put the high bishop to bed, then rest. You must all be exhausted after being directly hit with the crushing of that much mana." "High priest, are you okay?" I remembered the blood from his mouth. He forced a smile. "This is a punishment I brought upon myself. What else could I expect after silently watching the high bishop anger a devouring child who somehow survived to her baptism?" "Why did you just watch?" "Because the best possible result from my perspective would be you unconditionally joining the temple." I greedily sought the easy route. "I did not expect your parents to deny a noble's orders, much less embrace execution to protect you." Dad grinned. "Myne's my precious daughter. Didn't I make that clear?" The high priest looked at me with a complicated, self-derisive smile, as if he'd seen something too bright for him. Myne, I am envious of how loved you are. This temple is filled with those abandoned by their parents, be they orphans or nobles, and we know no such warmth. His words stuck with me. The high priest moved us to his own room, same furniture as the high bishop's, but his desk was buried in paperwork. He was the one really running the temple. He offered us seats. Dad asked about the crushing, my rainbow eyes and yellow mist. I was stunned. Rainbow eyes? Yellow mist? I had no idea that was happening to me. The high priest explained the crushing. When someone with mana loses control of emotions, mana races through their body and crushes those they identify as enemies with immense magical pressure. He asked if it had happened before. Dad mentioned my eyes changing color during tantrums, but never full crushing. It is known that devouring children have abnormal mana, but I did not expect enough to knock the high bishop unconscious. Forgive my phrasing, but why are you alive? The more mana a child is born with, the faster they die. A kind person gave me a nearly broken magic tool that saved my life. The high priest formally requested I join the temple. Not an order, a request. He acknowledged the high bishop's poor character, but said he handled the temple's administration personally. Why did you not seek a noble's contract through the kind person who gave you the magic tool? What would be the point of living as a slave? I want to stay with my family. I want to read and make books. Living a life where you can't do what you want is the same as being dead. You want to live as you choose? That is a hard philosophy for me to understand. Dad took over negotiations. Treat her like a noble, no gray shrine maiden labor. I will prepare blue robes. Her job will be magic tool upkeep in the book room. My affection for the high priest skyrocketed. He let me enter the book room without even being asked. Later, much later, after the contracts were signed and the terms agreed and my parents were speaking with the high priest about practical arrangements, I excused myself for a moment. The gray priest at the door of the book room bowed and stepped aside. I stood at the threshold. The last time I'd been here, an invisible wall had thrown me back. Now there was nothing, just the room and the silence and the shelves. I walked in slowly, the way you move when you're afraid something will disappear if you hurry. The first cabinet I reached was tall, taller than me by twice, built from some dense, pale wood that had darkened with age until it was almost amber. I raised my hand and pressed my palm flat against it. The grain ran in long, close lines beneath my fingers, smooth where hands had polished it over decades, rough in the untouched grooves between. There was a warmth to it that surprised me. Stone buildings hold cold, but wood remembers heat. This cabinet had been standing in this room for generations, and it had absorbed every lamp lit near it, every body that had ever sat reading nearby, every summer that had filtered through the narrow windows above. I leaned closer. The smell hit me like stepping through a doorway I'd been locked out of my entire life. Old parchment has a particular scent. Not the sharp smell of fresh ink, not the clean dryness of new paper. It's something deeper, a slow, layered thing like dried grass and dust, and something faintly sweet underneath, the way a wooden chest smells when you open it after years. It is the smell of accumulated time, of something that has been read and rested and survived. I had grown up surrounded by books. My Urano self had spent years in libraries where this was simply the air you breathed. I hadn't known how much I missed it until now, how much some part of me had been quietly starving for it since the day I woke up in Myne's small body in Myne's small room with no books, no libraries, nothing. My eyes stung. I pressed my forehead against the cabinet door. This was the smell of life to me, not flowers, not food, not rain on summer stone. This, pages and patience and the slow, quiet proof that someone had once cared enough to write something down and preserve it. I was going to work here. I was going to breathe this smell every day. I straightened up and wiped my face before anyone could see. Let her stay at home and commute daily. No issue. Many nobles already do so. She's too weak to work every day. She need not force herself when ill. I chimed in about needing servants to manage my health. The high priest wrote it down without hesitation, customary for blue shrine maidens. For the workshop, I negotiated along Benno's lines, giving orphans work, sharing profits with the temple. The high priest muttered, "Just how much does she know? and rubbed his temples, but agreed to discuss details later. Come in 1 month. We need time to prepare your blue robes. Outside the temple walls, the bright noon sky flooded us with relief. Dad murmured, "It's over. We won big. Mom, Dad, thanks for protecting me." I clenched my fist. Dad grinned and tapped his fist against mine. "You're the one who protected us with that crushing." Mom smiled. "I'm relieved the high priest is there. Someone needs to stop you when you run off. He'll be lecturing you constantly. He's probably going to get angry at me a lot." We turned into our alley. Thule was walking circles around the well. "Thule, Myne, you came back." She came running with tears streaming. Dad set me down and steadied me from behind as Thule jumped into my arms. "Welcome back, Myne. I was waiting for you." "I'm home, Thule." There had been some trouble along the way, but now that the temple negotiations were over, Gunther thought he could relax until he saw Otto's goofy grin at the gate. "Shape up. That's not the smile a soldier should have." Their commander laughed. "Like subordinate, like captain. He looks just like you when something good happens with your family." After their shift, they headed to a bar near the east gate. Gunther ordered 2 behels and boiled sausages, paying a large copper. They clinked mugs. "Cheers to Vantol." Gunther chugged most of his in a few gulps, the best way to drink behel. "So, what happened?" "Corinna told me not to tell, so it's a secret." "Congrats on the kid." "How'd you know?" "What else would your wife keep secret?" That goofy grin gave it away. Otto scratched his head, then his expression hardened. "Captain, I'm going to quit being a soldier someday, because of Myne." Gunther's eyes widened. Otto explained, the insane products Myne kept creating were growing the Gilberta company in unexpected directions. Paper would be immensely profitable and impact the entire world, but the store sold clothing. Benno wanted to expand. Corinna only cared about clothes. So Benno planned to give the Gilberta company to Corinna and start a new store, with Otto helping her. So Myne really is making insane money? True, and she manages it abnormally well for a kid. Who taught her? Gunther snorted. The gods. Myne's a girl loved by the gods. Surprisingly convincing, almost scarily so. Otto lowered his voice. Benno told me Myne will probably only have about 5 years of safety in the temple. Those with mana are precious now, but once nobles come back, she'll be treated as a liability. 5 years is better than dying in 6 months. Gunther's main goal had been extending Myne's life. Magic tools were necessary, but he lacked the connections or money to get them himself. But right now she's valuable. If she proves her worth before time's up, she might earn a better contract than simple slavery. Myne says she wants to stay with you and not sign with any noble. As a father, I want her to live as long as possible. Whatever happened depended on Myne. Despite being her father, there was painfully little Gunther could do. Benno and the guildmaster were both helping her more than he was. What can I even do? No money, no options. A soldier who can't protect his own daughter. What a laugh. Otto shook his head. The scariest possibility for Benno is Myne getting kidnapped by a noble from another city. Magic contracts only work in the city they're signed in. Not even the Archduke can control foreign nobles. Gunther felt struck, but Otto grinned. A guard checking every letter of invitation and introduction passing through the gate is in the perfect position to protect Myne. You just have to keep guarding the city like you have been. It was true. Nobles always rode through the gates with paperwork. By watching for suspicious outsiders and temple-bound nobles, he could reduce the kidnapping risk enormously. Next spring, his platoon was moving to the East Gate, the busiest, most connected to the main road. Keep your information net strong. Use connections with other soldiers. I'll help. Benno's neck is deep in this too, said Otto, clenching his fist in the soldier's battle prayer. Let's protect our families. Gunther returned the grin, drained his behel, and tapped his fist against Otto's. Yeah, I'm going to protect my family and this city.